Alright guys, here we go again. Today we are looking at lesson 9.3, which is finding cube roots. So today we should be able to find cube roots of numbers, evaluate expressions involving cube roots, and use cube roots to solve equations. So what is a cube root? Okay, if you look at that section with that highlighted piece, a cube root of a number p is a number whose cube is equal to p. So a cube root of a number p is a solution of the equation x cubed equal p. Okay, the symbol shown is used to represent a cube root. A perfect cube is a number that can be written as the cube of an integer. Okay, so looking at that definition, if we were trying to find the cube root of 8, right, I'm looking for what number to the third power equals 8. Okay, so here, right, I know that this is 2, because 2 times 2 times 2, right, equals 8. Okay, so in other words, right, the cubed root of 8 equals 2. Right, so we're just kind of undoing that process. Okay, so same idea for the next one. A number times itself 3 times, that will equal negative 27. So here, since I see a negative sign in that underneath the radical, I know that my answer is going to be negative, because a negative times a negative times a negative will equal a negative number. Okay, so here I know that negative 3 cubed is equal to negative 27. Right, therefore, the cubed root of negative 27 equals negative 3. Alright, and then in C there, right, cubed root of 1 over 64. Okay, so this, here I have a fraction. Okay, so I know my answer is going to be in a fraction. And I know that 1 cubed will get me back to 1. And 4 cubed will get me to 64. Okay, therefore, right, the cubed root of 1 over 64 equals 1/4. All right, if you're wondering how I knew the 2, negative 3, and the 1/4, it's just familiarity with these numbers. Okay, so as you do cube roots more and more, you'll start to recognize the numbers that it could be. And if you're not sure, right, you could just multiply it out like I did in that first problem to kind of see where that number would be at. Alright, so again, if you want to do these try-its on your own, feel free to pause the video and try those. Otherwise, you're about to get the answers. Alright, so cubed root of 1 is 1. The cubed root of negative 343 is, I know it's going to be a negative number, right, and this one is negative 7. And the cubed root of negative 27 over 1,000 is 27 is negative 3, right, 1,000 is 10, so negative 3/10. Right, on to example 2. Okay, so here, right, we just have an extra component, right, involved in evaluating these expressions. So in A, there's a 2 in front of the cubed root of negative 216. Well, first, I'm going to evaluate what is the cubed root of negative 216. Okay, and this should give me negative 6. Okay, so now my problem becomes 2 times negative 6, which gives me an answer of negative 12. Right, just like with square roots that we looked at, how squares, and if you have a square root to the power of 2, right, a square root squared, it cancels out. The same thing works with the cubed root to the power of 3, right, those will just cancel out. So I know that my answer will just be 125. Okay, remember we proved this because the cubed root of 125 is 5, and if I did 5 cubed, right, it would lead me to that answer of 125. Alright, again, we reached some try-its, so feel free to pause the video here to try these on your own, and then play it again to check your work. Alright, so if I look at number 4, right, I get 18 I get 18 minus 4 times the cubed root of 8 is 2. So that gives me 18 minus 8, which gives me an answer of 10. Okay, if I look at number 5, right, the cubed root of something cubed, right, we just talked about how those would cancel each other out. So I just get negative 64 plus 43, which if we add those together, that would give me a negative 21. And then in 6, I have 5 times the cubed root of 512, which is 8, right, minus 19. 5 times 8 would be 40 minus 19. 40 minus 19 would give me an answer of 21. Alright, in example 3, now we are solving. Okay, so we have x cubed equals 216. So again, just like we did in that last lesson, okay, in order to isolate the x, here I need to take the cubed root, I'm going to change colors for you guys actually. Here we need to take the cubed root of both sides, because when I take the cubed root of something cubed, right, we said that cancels out, so I'm isolating my x. Okay, and here the cubed root of 216 is 6. Okay, we might notice that when we did square roots, we ended up with 2 answers, right, a positive or a negative. Okay, when we're taking cubed roots, that's not the case, because if you had a negative 6 cubed, it would be a negative 216. Okay, so here you're only going to have one answer, either the positive answer or the negative, depending on, right, whether this was positive or negative. Okay, so just keep that in mind, because that's a little different than last time. All right, looking at example B, right, I want to isolate the n cubed. So to isolate the n cubed, right, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal here. So I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative 4. So when I do that, the negative 1/4 and negative 4 would become a positive 1, right, making that kind of cancel out. So I'm left with n cubed equals a negative 8. Again, I'm going to take the cubed root now of both sides, okay, because the cubed root and the cube will cancel. The cubed root of negative 8 is negative 2. All right, you can also find the cubed root in your calculator, guys. If you're not familiar with the cubed roots and you can't come up with them quite as quickly as I am right now, in your calculator, you should see, it should be above maybe like the caret key or something. Sorry, I don't have one of your calculators at home to look at. But if you enter in the number first, so 3, and then it should look like an X with a cube, or pardon, an X with the radical sign, and then you can type in the number. Hopefully that works. Try it out, let me know. If not, I can play around with it. Otherwise, of course, you can use an iPad calculator or just look up a cubed root chart, okay, so that you have that to make the problems a little bit easier, okay? So all of those are options for you too. All right, so again, pause the video, try them, okay, check your work. Otherwise, you're about to find out these answers, right? Z cubed equals 1,000. So I'm going to cube root both sides. When I do that, isolate Z. Z would equal 10. All right, in 5, right, first I need to divide both sides by 3, which I would get B cubed equals 343. And then cube root both sides. Cubed root of 343 is 7. Right, and then in 6, right, first I want to actually, I forgot to switch colors. First, I'm going to switch colors. All right, then I want to isolate my m cubed, right, so I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. When I do that, I get 25 equals negative 1/5 m cubed. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, right, so I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative 5. So we isolate m cubed would equal negative 125, right? Cubed root both sides. And then m would equal a negative 5. Right, we can always check these answers, of course, by plugging negative 5 back in for m, right, and seeing if it does equal 33, right? So always go back and check your work, especially if you were not sure. All right, last example here, modeling real life. So here we're looking at a baseball display case made of plastic. It says how many square inches of plastic are used to make the case. So if we want to know how many square inches of plastic are used to make the case, right, they're actually asking us to find, right, the surface area. Okay, so if I'm finding the surface area of a cube, right, I'm finding the area of each side, okay, and since it's a cube, they're all the same, right, so I need to do 6 times s squared, right, because I have s times s would give me one side, okay, and there's 6 of them, okay, so I'm going to have 6s squared, okay, but before I can do that, right, I need to go back and I need to figure out, well, what is s? Well, they told me that the volume, right, was equal to 125 inches cubed, right, they told us that down here. Okay, so what is my formula for volume, right? Well, volume equals s cubed. So, knowing that, right, if I have 125 equals s cubed, right, I just have to take the cubed root of both sides to find out that s equals 5. Okay, so if s equals 5, well, now let's take that back up here. And if we plug that in, right, my surface area would be 6 times 5 squared, which would be 6 times 25, which would be 150 inches squared. Alright guys, that is it for today on cubed roots. Okay, like always, try logging into Big Ideas, trying that homework, okay, doing some extra practice to make sure you understand.